Hello and welcome to Secular Sexuality, the ACA show that hopes to have you hypnotized, mesmerized by what your eyes are about to see. I'm Christy Powell. My captivating co-host tonight is, of course, Vi Bianca. All right, and we may be having some issues with V's audio.
Shit.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Hey, how you doing?
I was being so polite and muting my mic and everything.
Right? Yeah, that's that 2020 culture right there.
All right. Well, okay. So tonight's guest, I know Christy is super excited about because this is a topic that he has been teasing us with for a very long time. We talked with this person about a week ago to discuss her career as an erotic audio performer. And she invited us into the world of erotic hypnosis and the healing power of porn. Confused? Intrigued? If you want to talk about this, jump on the phone lines. We are here all night at 512-991-9242. Or you can call us toll-free online at tiny.cc/callsex. The lines are open. If you have a story about being hypnotized, literally or otherwise, if you want to talk about porn and how it's helped you, or maybe how it hasn't helped you and get some perspective from us, feel free to call in. We're here.
Yeah, we're here. We're taking your calls. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and watch that clip together. We've talked to a couple of people recently about the world of erotic audio, and I'm really curious how you got into it or how you found this industry.
Well, a couple of years ago, I was listening to an audiobook, and the narrator was a man with a very sexy voice. And it just occurred to me, I just kind of idly thought, I wonder if there are guys who do kind of boyfriend type audios where they talk to you like they're your boyfriend. So I went and I looked on Erotica, and it was like I was like a kid in a candy shop, and I was just completely hooked. I just couldn't believe what I had found. And so then I just very quickly thought, I can do this. So that's how I got into it.
I have a sexy voice. I can do this.
You see, I'm telling you, I advocate very strongly for people to do erotic audio. It can be a life-changing experience and a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, how has the industry treated you? I mean, is this a full-time career for you, or what does it look like?
Yeah, it's a full-time career for me. I think I'm one of the few people now anyway. I might not be, but I know at the time that I started, I was one of the few people doing it full time. It's been a remarkable experience for me, I have to say, from start to finish. For the first year that I did this, I did everything was just a public free audio. I just didn't even think about it. It hadn't even occurred to me. And then fans started saying, you should charge for this. And I was like, what are you talking about? What? Charge for this? Like, what? You mean people would pay for this? And gradually it just occurred to me that, yeah, I could do like a membership type site or something. And it just kind of went on from there. But it's been remarkable. Honestly, I could go on for hours about what a great experience it's been, just meeting people and touching people's lives and hearing their stories and making friends and creative collaborations. And it's just been fantastic.
Yeah, well, what sorts of products are you offering? I mean, how are you touching lives and, having fans and customers now?
Well, I do what I like to call intimate immersive audio, meaning that it's erotic, sometimes not. But what I do is I create little scenarios and audio experiences. They can go anywhere from role play right up to just these meta kind of rambles where I just talk to people and give them some encouragement or whatever. Sometimes I read poetry, I write fiction because I'm a novelist as well. So I record my own books, things like that. And what happens is it's an experience for the listener. In my case, I aim it only at male listeners or people who identify with the male persona, because that's just my thing. I decided a long time ago that I didn't have anything against any other person, any other orientation or preference or anything like that. But it was just more true to me because this was how I felt. And I figured I might as well, I'm not going to fake anything. I want to be authentic, and this is who I am. Luckily, there is a huge gamut of people out there that appeal to every single listener, so I don't have to worry about that so much. But what I do is I just create these experiences for people, for men to listen to, and what I learned was you could create a kind of a membership site where some of my audios are you have to sign up in order to listen to them, but 80% of what I do is free. So it's just a way to kind of make some money doing this, so that I don't have to go out and work full time, that I can actually devote all my time to making these audios. And it's been incredibly popular because it's an experience unlike any other erotic content you're going to find out there. Most visual porn is just you, an observer on the outside looking in, watching 2 or 3 or 12 or whatever people, having sex with each other, and not you. And the idea is, with erotic audio or intimate audio, is that you are talking to the listener as if they are a participant, as if they are the person that is in this scenario with you. And that speaks to people on a much deeper level. It can be much more comforting, much more intimate, as I said, much more soothing, because I have found a lot of people come to this not necessarily just looking for a sexual experience, although there is that, and that's fine. But a lot of people are looking for a much more of a human connection. They're looking for the intimacy that maybe they're lacking. Maybe they don't have a partner. Maybe they've never had a partner. Maybe they've been through a breakup. I've had widowers. I've had people who are deployed overseas and miss their wife. I've had people write to me saying all of these scenarios that these types of audios help them feel better with. So that's the experience that I sell, if you will. But as I said, it's only about 20% of my whole production goes into that. So it's mostly just out there for anybody to enjoy.
Well, and how has your work evolved? I mean, as you've been doing this and going from having, just fans to now customers, and building, you've got a number of different websites and a number of different, I guess, programs and different ways of going about it. So how has that changed for you? What have you sort of learned along the way?
Well, my very first audio, I was so nervous. I was shaking like a leaf. I mean, I didn't really know, but I didn't have any expectations. And I think that was a sort of a gift for me in a way, because I just started doing this the same way many people do erotic audio, which is just for fun. It's just a fun thing. It's a great way to express yourself. It's completely safe and anonymous, and you can just let go. You can describe your fantasies. You can just have fun with it. And I guess what changed for me was realizing that as strange as it sounds, it almost feels like it's a responsibility in a way, that you know that you have people listening to you who really need what you're offering. So it's less about self-expression now and more about my listener. It's kind of like you create an avatar in your mind of your average listener, and you aim your audios towards him, in my case. And it's more about, am I giving the listener something that they're going to really need, appreciate, want? Am I giving them the variety that they would get if they were in a relationship, for example? Things like this, that no one's ever imposed this on me, but it just sort of feels like I'm lucky enough to have 400,000 people a month visit my website and listen to me. I've just passed 25 million downloads and listens of my audios. So I feel like I have an audience to answer to, in a way, so that I would not just now pick up the microphone and do something self-indulgent. I wouldn't pick up something and just say, oh, I feel like doing X today. I do try to stay authentic, because this is pretty much what you see is what you get with me. And I'm very glad I went that way in the beginning, because it would be really hard to maintain if I was faking anything, really, my feelings about sex and about men and stuff like that. But it does feel less like self-expression now. But it's okay, because that also means it's evolved into a rewarding career for me. It lets me express my creativity, my writing, my performing. I've trained in acting and journalism and radio, and I do voiceover work. And so it all kind of comes together into what I'm doing. So it's actually a really rewarding job for me. And I'm very, very lucky and grateful to have it. So it's a good evolution.
That sounds familiar. I'm only a year into being a YouTube content creator person, and it did start out very much like a oh, I'm just going to dabble in this. It's just going to be for fun, try something out once or twice.
Mhm.
And it quickly does become, oh, this is a responsibility now. And it's a lot of fun, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, but there is that element of people are expecting something, and I need to come and give my best and give my all here. I had a question, and forgive me if this is maybe very basic, but do you primarily pre-record these things, or are these things you engage in the moment with your clients? Is this something that is purely, recorded prior and sent out, or do you role play in the moment?
No, for me, I am strictly a performer. All I do is I pre-record everything, and I don't engage with my fans in that way. Some people do. Some people will do custom audios. So you could contact somebody and say, my name is so and so, and I would love to hear an audio that features, I don't know, watermelons. I mean, whatever. You could do whatever. You could ask the person to do whatever you like, and they'll say your name and that sort of thing. And other people actually do get involved in more live streaming type things or one-on-one sessions. I don't personally. I treat everything like it's I'm creating like a little work of art. I don't know how else to put it, but each one is a little production, and then I post it to various places. And so that's in a sense, it's kind of like an evergreen thing. People can just keep coming back to it. New people can find it all the time. And that's just the way I prefer to work.
Wonderful. Thanks for that clarification. I was wondering if that was something that was done at all, or that you did. So that's awesome.
It's a complicated world, and there's lots of
All right. I'm assuming that's
That could be our segment break, but also I think I dropped out for a moment. So
Oh, that is what happened. Okay, I thought we were breaking for a segment. I was like, there's another question here, though. So I guess I'll jump in with the last question, if that's okay. What have you learned as you've jumped in here, and you've talked about how it kind of moved from self-expression to more of creating artwork for a consumer base? Is there anything else that you kind of have gleaned from this as you've built this career for yourself?
Definitely. There's lots of things that surprise me every day still. But I think two of the most, the most poignant things, for lack of a better word, that I've discovered is that a lot of men are, especially young men, are very lost and really confused about how to deal with women. If they are straight young men and they're looking for women, they don't know how to approach women. They're terrified to do the wrong thing. They're aware that there has been a lot of abuse and a lot of harassment and a lot of issues, and they hear things in the media every day about masculinity, about Me Too, about all kinds of things, and they don't want to be part of the problem. So that leaves them with this kind of crippling insecurity where they don't know what to do, but they know that they want this very much. So I've learned as well that so many men are actually just really good guys. Like there's so many good men out there that kind of get left behind in this. And it's not to say that it's taking anything away from the experience of people that have, gone through something terrible, but it's just something that I was really kind of touched by when I started realizing that there's a lot of young men who really could just, I don't know, use a bit of guidance or a bit of reassurance that they are not seen as these horrible creatures by everyone, that good men, and I use that word just to mean, men that are not creeps, men that are not going to hurt women, good men are wonderful, and that women love them, and there's really no reason to be afraid. But that's going to be a very hard it's going to be a hard sell, I think, because so many of them have been convinced, I think, that there's really little that they can do to achieve their goals or meet a woman or have a relationship. And I find it really, it's sad because they're still, they remain, most of them remain good men. There's a lot of talk about incels and stuff like that, about, you know, men that get angry that they can't have a woman, but that is such a tiny percentage of the men out there that I don't think it's fair to kind of you know, make the media focus on these men and then treat everyone who's in that situation like they're one of these guys, because most of them remain good men who are respectful and honest and decent, and that's something that really opened my eyes when I started doing this. So I'm very grateful in a way that I got to see that perspective that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
So V, I'm really curious about your experience watching that tape back. I know as a therapist who works with a lot of men who feel awkward or uncomfortable around their sexuality and are just sort of trying to navigate this new world and haven't really been given a roadmap on how to do that in a way that is feminist, in a way that is kind, honestly, that it definitely resonates with me. But, you know, as a femme presenting person, as somebody who's grown up on sort of the other side of that experience, I'm really curious how this resonates or how it maybe doesn't resonate with you.
I think it does and it doesn't. Like,
Sure.
Of course, as always, there must be nuance. There must be two sides to every coin. I think on the one hand, I want to draw a distinction between impact and intent. And I think that a lot of the time, probably because of horrible sex education in schools and this unnecessary segregation between genders growing up and the horrible way that sex and romance are portrayed in media, there is a lot of misinformation out there and miseducation of men specifically, that even if they have the best of intentions, they are going to come across in ways that are creepy or ways that are uncomfortable or maybe even non-consensual. And I think the key here is to make sure we're never saying, this made me uncomfortable, therefore this person is bad or has evil intent, until we can actually establish that. So I think that the impulse is understandable to close up and be like, no, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to make a snap judgment about this person because I'm feeling a certain way. And experience has borne out that this is usually the way I feel before something bad happens. That is to be respected. But also, I think we need to make sure that we are separating those two and saying, good guys can have terrible impacts, but also don't judge the character of a person solely on the impact that they have.
Well, sure. And I'd like to think that this content or content like this can be part of the solution, you know, that it can be a opportunity to role play. I mean, it's role playing audio and to role play in a healthy way, to experience, you know, vulnerability and romance and these other things that men aren't necessarily well trained for.
Exactly.
But I guess I just also want to acknowledge maybe the gut reaction that I have when listening to some of that kind of language.
And there's the other side of this coin as well, which is I take on mask roles, especially when I am on dates with cis women or trans women or, you know, femme presenting NB people. I tend to take on a role that is more mask, and I fall into that fairly naturally. But I also, the minute I step into that headspace, am inundated with those same messages, right? And so I can very, very easily empathize now that I've been in that space of, oh, I'm supposed to be making the first move. How do I do that without, you know, crossing boundaries or drawing lines? Or am I supposed to go in for a kiss? Do I ask for a kiss? Will that make it awkward? Like, there have been so many times where I've just felt like a gawky 13-year-old boy, just like, I don't know how to talk to girls. And so, yeah, I think that being on the other side of it, having had the experience of both, is really enlightening and gives me a little bit more empathy, I think.
Sure.
I actually had a quick question too, and I'm curious about your take on this. I didn't get to ask this to our guest, Eve, but I did think I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up, which is, Do you think that there's a difference in how evangelical or any kind of conservative Christian group would view audio porn
versus other
as
types
opposed
of
to other
pornography?
types? Is that a distinction that you've come across before? Because to
Oh
me,
man.
it almost feels like something that would be like less offensive for some reason,
Yeah,
but
one of those
also,
like sex loopholes.
yeah, right? Like this
Yeah.
feels like something that a lot of people who might be, restricting other kinds of porn in their life might actually benefit from, and be like, okay, this is a guilt-free way, or a way that doesn't come with as much stigma from my childhood or my indoctrination, that I can kind of enter into this space.
Oh, no question. I will say, for myself, growing up in a pretty rural area in a era of dial-up internet and stuff like
Wow, you
that.
put rural area and era all in the same
Right?
sentence.
Yeah, but it's because I'm an expert broadcaster. So having that experience, there definitely was not access to erotic audio, when I was coming up through high school and puberty and those experiences. But I have to believe, and I think Eve even mentions this in one of our last interview segments, about how it is a little bit more approachable. And, that could be seen as that kind of conservative Christian thing where you like just lift the fence a little bit instead of actually like tearing it down and providing access. But I think for folks in our audience, even, it could be maybe an opportunity if conventional porn or some of the things that we think of as porn make you feel uncomfortable or just give you that icky gut reaction, knowing full well that there's nothing, immoral or unethical about that kind of content, or, the right type of that kind of content. This may be a comfortable way of embracing your sexuality and maybe exploring it a little bit more. So yeah, I definitely see where you're going with that question. And yeah, I'd be really curious to hear what some of our viewers think.
Yeah, if you have an experience where maybe you lifted the fence a little bit to get in on that sweet, sweet sex content while you were still a Christian, or maybe that's something you're dealing with now, this is a great episode to call in for. So that is 512-991-9242. You have no excuses.
Well, and we would love to hear